This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one website platform helping you succeed online. How's it, Grant here, and welcome to my camera comparison between the iPhone 17 Pro Max and Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, a couple of the best phones with some of the best smartphone camera systems you're going to find this year, especially in the United States. And now, the iPhone this year has a triple 48 megapixel fusion camera system on the rear, with the main upgrade being the telephoto sensor going from 12 to 48 megapixels, also being a slightly larger sensor. And of course, the selfie camera is also an upgrade on the iPhone with an 18 megapixel camera, but it can shoot both in landscape or portrait without having to rotate the phone. And now the S25 Ultra has its 200 megapixel main sensor, along with a pair of telephoto sensors at 3 and 5x, and also a 50 megapixel ultra wide angle camera. And here's a quick test of the cinematic mode on the iPhone and portrait video on the Galaxy S25 Ultra. So you should be seeing this artificial background blur here in this indoor setting in my office. And of course, it's fully adjustable to as much or less blur as you want. And like I usually do, I'm going to test both of these camera systems out for you. I'm going to take a bunch of photos and videos in both good and low light conditions to help you decide which of these two smartphone camera systems are going to be best for your smartphone camera needs. So go ahead and take a look at all the photos and videos and let me know what you think. Hey everyone, so I want to start this comparison with the telephoto cameras because I think that's what really sets apart these ultra level phones and their pro level camera systems. And what the telephoto sensor allows you to do is to zoom in on things at full optical zoom. And so you can use it for long range zoom, which is good for things like street photography or portrait photography. And if you've got a sensor that can focus really close to things, also macro photography. And that's going to be better using that lens than using your main lens and having to crop in to a digital zoom. You're going to lose quality. And unfortunately, the iPhone camera is not a telemacro sensor, so it can't get close to subjects. It doesn't have a very good minimum focusing distance, which means it's very good for more long range shots. And what you're going to notice is you're going to have to stand farther away from a subject to take a photo with the telephoto lens. And at face value, you're going to get a very nice shot, and it's going to be a very nice full 48 megapixel shot if you decide to use that 48 megapixel mode, which I highly encourage. But as you get closer to shots, you'll notice that it'll switch to the main sensor. So as you get closer to your subject, if you start from the telephoto sensor, you'll see it switch over into the main camera. If you look very closely, you'll see that switch in the viewfinder. And this is going to allow you to get close to your subject and take some pretty good looking close range macro photos. And on face value, they'll look very good. But if you look, because it's cropping in on the main sensor, you're going to be stuck with 12 megapixel photos instead of the full 48 megapixel photos. And it's fine if you're not going to zoom in, pinch to zoom, pixel peep, or print the photos, but you will have a loss in quality if you decide to do those things. And the S25 Ultra has the dual telephoto sensors at 3x and 5x, although the 5x is the larger sensor and it's at 50 megapixels, so that's going to be more comparable to the iPhone's 48 megapixel Fusion telephoto camera. And so in this shot, I start out really close to the subject and it's out of focus, and I pull back just a little bit and it comes into full focus. We can snap the shot, and it's going to take a good looking photo here. And you can see it's using the full 150 millimeter super telephoto sensor at a full 50 megapixels. And you compare that to the iPhone's telephoto shot, and it's really not much of a comparison just because the iPhone can't get as close. But when you go ahead and compare the S25 Ultra's telephoto shot to the iPhone's cropped in shot off its main sensor, you can see at face value they both look very nice. But once you do punch in, you can see that's where the quality degrades on the iPhone because, again, it is cropping in on the main sensor. So it's going to be really up to you if this is a big enough difference to matter based off of how you use your camera systems. But here are a few more photos just to illustrate the same point. And again, depends on how you use the camera system and if you're going to take these style of photos and how you're going to use them. If you're going to blow them up, print them out, this quality difference might mean something to you. But let me know. I'll get off my soapbox and we can get on with the rest of the camera comparison. However, just a quick break from the video to mention that whether you are a content creator, a creative professional, or a smartphone camera enthusiast like me, it's extremely valuable to have a website where you can point your audience to not only showcase, but to also fund your work, as well as to sell products, as well as your digital content like your photography. And that's where today's sponsor, Squarespace, has you covered. In addition to offering templates for every type of website to help you quickly get started, Squarespace offers various ways to quickly set up various income streams, from selling your photos or artwork on various products your audience would appreciate, to providing a quick way for your supporters to donate and help fund your work, or selecting from pre-built templates to easily create a members-only area on your website to offer your supporters exclusive content and new ways to connect with you. And when you're ready to publish your first website, go to squarespace.com/grantlikestech for 10% off. I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Squarespace, for helping me bring you more content like this. Now let's get back to the video. Everyone, so here's a test of the rear cameras of the iPhone 17 Pro Max and S25 Ultra. This is being shot at 4K 60 frames per second, and this is the ultra wide angle camera to start out on each. So I'm just going to pan around here so you get a side-by-side view of how these ultra wide angle cameras perform here in this particular setting in the park. You can see a lot of greens and blues and some of the fall colors coming in. You can see how the exposure kind of adjusts as I pan down towards the shade and kind of pan back up into the sunlight there. But we'll move into the main camera on the iPhone and now on the Samsung. So this is now the main camera, and I'll do the same thing. I'll just pan around so you get a side-by-side view of how these main cameras look and perform here. Again, we'll pan down into the shade and pan back up and see how the exposure adjusts. And we'll pan over here to the right and we'll test zoom out on that cell tower. So we can go into the 4x telephoto on the iPhone. There we go. And we can go 5x or 3x telephoto here on the Samsung. And also, of course, the Samsung does have that 5x periscope telephoto as well. And we can move into a max zoom here of 24x on the iPhone, and we can go slowly into a max 20x there on the Samsung. Both looking pretty clear, fairly steady, a little bit more steady on the Samsung maybe in the viewfinder. So we'll back them both out here, Samsung and iPhone, and we'll do an autofocus test here on the post. We'll start with the iPhone first, easier to do one by one. Back in and away. So really quick autofocus as you would expect here on the 17 Pro Max and S25 Ultra, and away. And it can be difficult to focus up with the shade and the backlight, but both seem to be doing a pretty good job there. And we'll just walk down the stairs so we get a side-by-side view of how the stabilization looks here as we walk through the pathway. And then we'll just go ahead and jog to try to stress out that stabilization. So there you go, quick rear video test of the cameras here on the 17 Pro Max and S25 Ultra. Everyone, so we're back in the same setting. This time I'm shooting in log file format. So this is at 4K 30 frames per second, which is the max frame rate supported by Apple ProRes log. The Samsung can shoot in 4K 60, but just to keep everything even, we're shooting here at 4K 30. And again, this is log file format that you're probably seeing some color corrected footage by me. So I just want to show you the difference in shooting with this more pro style format and having a little bit more control over your settings as well as the overall color and how that looks compared to the fully auto footage that you had just seen. And so I'll just walk so maybe you can see the stabilization and how the lighting changes. That might affect the overall picture quality as well. So you can compare with what you just saw in that fully auto footage as far as how the exposure, the colors, everything else looks. So let me know what you think about this log file color corrected footage compared to what you just saw as far as full auto straight out of the cameras. Hey everyone, so we're back with the rear cameras, and this time we have cinematic video on the iPhone 17 Pro Max and portrait video on the S25 Ultra. So you're going to see this artificial background blur, and right now it is at f/4.0 on the iPhone and 5 out of 7 on the Samsung, so it's fully adjustable to as much or less blur as you want. And I'm obviously in some shade, more controlled lighting, so you can see what this looks like with a little bit more even light. But I can step into this really bright sunshine that we have here, so you can see what the picture quality looks like and the overall effect looks like with more harsh light shining directly on me. I can pan around so you can see what it looks like in the changing lighting conditions here, as well as what it looks like with the sun shining directly into those cameras. And we'll move out this way, and I'll just walk so you can see how this effect holds up with a bit of movement and the overall stabilization looks like here in this mode. So let me know what you think about cinematic video on the iPhone and portrait style video on the Samsung S25 Ultra here on the rear cameras. Hey, so here's a test of the front-facing cameras of the iPhone 17 Pro Max and Galaxy S25 Ultra. This is being shot at 4K 60 frames per second, which is the max resolution and frame rate of these front-facing selfie cameras. I'm outdoors in some shade, so it's more even lighting right now, so you can see what that looks like and what the picture quality and everything looks like because of that. But I can move over here into the really bright sunlight right now. You can see what that looks like with the sun shining directly onto me and how that picture quality, exposure, everything changes because of that. And we'll move back this way and I'll pan around just to give you a view of what the picture quality looks like as the lighting conditions change here. And I can go back into the bright light and you can see what it looks like here with the sun shining more directly into those cameras. And we'll just go here and walk so we can test the stabilization and you can see what these cameras look like side by side with some movement. So let me know what you think about the footage here at 4K 60 frames per second from the front-facing cameras of the iPhone 17 Pro Max and Galaxy S25 Ultra. Alright, so we're back with the front-facing cameras, this time with portrait video or cinematic video on the iPhone, portrait video on the S25 Ultra. So you're seeing this artificial background blur that is fully adjustable. It is at f/4.0 on the iPhone, and it's about a 5 out of 7 on the Samsung, so you can go more or less blurry as you want. Again, this is even lighting, so you see what the effect looks like here with more controlled light. But of course, if we step into the bright light and have it shine directly on me, you can see what that does to the picture quality and this effect. Similarly, if I just pan around, you can see what it does with the changing lighting conditions and how everything looks now with the harsh light shining down into those cameras. But again, I'll just move this way and I'll just walk so you can see what this effect looks like with some movement and how it holds up. So let me just think about cinematic video on the iPhone, portrait video here on the S25 Ultra front-facing selfie cameras. Hey everyone, so here's a low light camera test of the rear cameras of the iPhone 17 Pro Max and Galaxy S25 Ultra. This is being shot at 4K 60 frames per second, and this is the ultra wide angle cameras to start out on each. So I'm just going to pan around to give you a side-by-side view of how these ultra wide angle cameras compare. And you'll notice that the iPhone has the wider field of view. It can fit more in the frame right now. And also notice a bit dark, but as we pan this way and we move into the main cameras on the iPhone, there we go, and on the Samsung, you'll notice the picture quality brighten up because these main sensors are obviously larger. They're going to let in more light, and you're going to see an overall brighter image quality here. You can see how they handle that really bright street light as well. So I'll just pan around so you get a side-by-side view of how these main cameras compare in this particular area. And we can go ahead and even test the telephoto camera, so 4x on the iPhone and 3x telephoto on the Samsung. And of course they get darker because they're smaller sensors. You can see here. And we can move into the 5x sensor on the Samsung, also telephoto. And we'll move over this way. And we can try to even test more of the zoom. So move all the way in, max zoom on the iPhone. And let's get a max zoom here on the Samsung. And we'll back them both out. So 1x on the Samsung and on the iPhone. And we'll move around this way. And we'll just walk to test the stabilization. So you can see what that looks like side by side. And of course, there's always going to be micro jitters. That's always going to happen in low light. And you can also see how they handle a little bit different light here. It gets darker around this pathway. So you can see what this looks like with a little bit less light. And that really bright light's off. So we got a really dark area here. So you can really see how they handle a much darker area right now. We just got some of these lights illuminating the walkway. And we'll stop here and pan around so you can see what it looks like down that darker stretch here. And up into the building and back up into the night sky here. Of course, there's gonna be some light pollution. There are some stars. So we'll pan back this way. And there you go, just a quick test in low light of the rear cameras of the iPhone 17 Pro Max and Galaxy S25 Ultra. Hey everyone, so we're back in the same scene. This time I'm shooting in log format. So this is the main cameras at 4K 30 frames per second. And again, this is log video that you're seeing color graded. So you can see what it looks like here in this different type of file format. That's more flat file format, flat colors that allow you to kind of color them and yourself. So you get the kind of look that you want. So you can see how this compares to the previous footage that was straight out of the cameras, full auto. And I'll just do the same thing. I'll just walk around the same area so you can see that bright area. And you can see as we move into the dark area what all this looks like. Of course, I think at 60 frames per second, the Samsung is a bit darker, which I'd always encourage you to record more at 30 frames per second in low light because of that. But the iPhone looked a little bit bright. And so this footage should look hopefully a little bit more like night if I'm able to color correct it properly. And so I'll just show you the same thing here in this darker area and what it looks like here across the building and into some of that night sky. So let me know what you think about this log color corrected footage compared to the full auto footage that you saw straight out of the cameras. Hey everyone, so here's a low light camera test of the front facing cameras between the iPhone 17 Pro Max and Galaxy S25 Ultra. This is being shot at 4K 60 frames per second. And off the bat, you'll notice that the iPhone has the wider field of view. It can fit more in the frame. And at least in the viewfinder, the iPhone looks like it's skewing a lot warmer in color temperature. And the S25 Ultra is a little bit cooler and also a little bit darker. and I think the color temperature is probably somewhere in between there. But we'll move over here so you can see what the really bright street light looks like back there and how it's going to affect the picture quality. And I'm just showing you that any camera's going to flare that out, but if you're trying to film at night, you're probably going to be around some bright lights, and that's what you might expect. And so we'll just walk so you can see the stabilization side by side, as well as let's move over to a bit of a different lighting situation where it's a little bit darker in this particular area that I'm walking right now. And then we'll just move all the way around back this way and pan all the way around so you can see what these cameras look like with a bunch of those bright street lights shining into it. And right now the S25 Ultra is definitely looking a lot darker, and that's because this is at 60 frames per second. I think if you shot at 30 frames, it's going to be a lot brighter and not quite as dark, which I would recommend shooting at 30 frames at night in low light because of that. But right here, a little bit different lighting situation, a little bit darker, so you can see what that looks like side by side. And again, the iPhone definitely a lot warmer, and S25 Ultra a lot cooler and darker. So let me know what you thought about the overall camera comparison here between the iPhone 17 Pro Max and Galaxy S25 Ultra. Also, let me know which one you preferred and which one would you use on a daily basis. I'm always curious to hear how you use your smartphone cameras and which one you would personally use and why. So drop me a comment, let me know what you thought about the camera comparison, and I'll see you in the next video.